Abusafo yemo bibia kwaba na yemfa Mega TV yem platform we eso. Uncle Kwesi Pratt Junior Edin Simbi atudwa ediafa the foreign affairs minister odano eyura Okudzeto Ablakwa Northton emrashi bibeni na mobeka yenche bia no rewi eba abonti beka se close embassy ewo US Ghana embassy US na ne se sikadie bi enima bi ekoso ewo ho ba sisiam no kese die wasan abie anon na we na yeru Kwesi Pratt Junior kase no, this is immature. In fact any kwansen ke eba ne sa because eba sa ebe man nkofo binuma omo chese omu edi omu dwuma emfo omu ho no they will be affected. Anyon nkwa Kwesi Pratt ache na adwen e de afa yewura chairman Ntwibu Esiako Ashanti regional chairman MPP eye ne arrest Iyokofo omu akipino on their custody in their custody okopiem e hospital e ho sensem ayi dejai Sansona Uncle Kwesi Pratt akasafa the mixing ECG containers mobekai brandis for eji akondwa we na eche se containers bi ewo ECG yewura John Jinapo no ye oye energy minister currently echiremu a sa containers ni na yira na yini kwankura efaswa about 40 fita containers na yira aden etuye eminge yewura Kwesi Pratt Junior aiden awe the managing director edema inside the Bokra Taro or also your founder edema the Pan-African TV no or the nsɛm atudwa Good Morning Ghana show so moro the show so yanko ne yanko tinsen meso so document betum wa like na wa share na foforo enye bia hwe yenti nsen ni bia koba beto aso.
I mean, I think one has to make the point that His Excellency Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa has earned a huge reputation as an anti-corruption campaigner. I mean, there's no doubt at all about that.
Right.
You understand? But somehow, unfortunately, in the reassignment of duties and so on, President Mahama did not take him to the CID or to Yoko or any of those places. He put him in foreign affairs. Foreign affairs necessarily requires a new set, of skills and so on, Now, having said that, I think the point also has to be made that many diplomatic missions have had problems. Many, not just Ghanaian diplomatic missions, many. A couple of years ago, I think about 2 years ago or so, South Africa suspended the issuance of visas from their High Commission here. No noise was made about it. I mean, you just notice, for those of us who travel to South Africa a lot, you just notice that the process had become very slow. I mean, it was unexplained. It took a long time for us to realize that there were some problems relating to the issuance of visas from the South African High Commission here. They kept it under wraps. Not just that, I have known that at least on one occasion, a British diplomat had been recalled from Ghana because of conduct which the appointing authorities thought was unbecoming of a diplomat. But it was done so quietly.
Yeah.
So several missions here and elsewhere have had problems. But then it has been dealt with very quietly. There must be a reason for that. And it seems to me that the reason for that is that given the role of embassies and high commissions, it is important that they come out in a certain decorous frame. You understand? Yesterday something happened and I was a bit alarmed. You had media houses open phone lines and invite Ghanaians everywhere to make statements the quality of services they are getting from their embassies and so on. And I'm sure you probably saw some of them.
Yeah.
And it was horrifying. The kinds of things Ghanaian citizens outside were saying about their own missions. The mission in Germany came under attack. The mission in Spain was torn to shreds, and so on. I want to believe that these Ghanaians who are calling into this, the effect of that on our ability to represent the country, if we create the impression that our high commissions and embassies are dens of crooks and highwaymen and women, we do irreparable damage to their capacity to represent us properly. You understand? So I would urge that when it comes to such things, the minister was right in seeking to take corrective action. Nobody can quarrel with His Excellency Okudzeto Ablakwa for taking measures to curb corruption in one particular embassy or embassies and so on. That's his duty. He's supposed to do that. My problem is, do we do it, with this level of media attention and so on? What is it intended to do? So that's one of the issues. Now, for me, from what the gentleman who used to work in the embassy has written,
Kofi
Tonto has written, it's obvious that these matters came to the notice of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, according to him.
Long before Mr. Okudzeto Ablakwa assumed office. Long before President Mahama became president for the second time and so on. Why was this gentleman not dealt with? Why did he still remain in office and carry on this activity, which to all intents and purposes is illegitimate and illegal? That's a huge question. Ministry who shielded him for all this time, given the fact that it was known that he was doing this. I mean, I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm seriously worried about the fact that this is the situation. You understand? Then there's an important point which you have raised, and that is, what is the quality of our auditing? What's the quality of our auditing? Because the story is that he's the IT expert in the embassy, that he has managed to create a link, which is personal for him.
Yeah.
So applicants for passports and other services actually end up with him.
Yeah.
And he charges them illegal fees, and then eventually the passports are issued and so on. Now, if you just audit the payment systems in the embassy, this should come out.
Easily.
So who has been doing the auditing of the embassy? And how was the auditing done? That's another issue. You understand? So it may appear to be a simple matter of fighting corruption and so on, but I think that there are many other dimensions to this issue.
It's a whole syndicate.
Yes. Now we are being told that some extraordinary diplomats are being sent to Washington. I mean, you read the description, of the diplomats who are going there to rectify the situation and so on. Well, it's interesting, but I'm again just wondering, because we hear from one of the newspaper reports, especially the report in Herald, that there were members of staff of the embassy who saw this and fought it.
Yes.
Exactly. And actually sent reports to Accra.
Yes.
These are honest men and women who wanted the right thing to be done. Now, how come that in the remedial action that we took, all of them, including the people who fought this system, who perhaps even exposed this system, were affected? There's a problem there.
Yeah.
There's some problem there, and so on. But let me make my final remark.
And what does this even mean for our fight against corruption?
Exactly.
If I'm going to expose somebody and I lose my job at the end of the day, no matter what, just keep quiet.
Well, they haven't lost their jobs; they were suspended.
Well,
you understand? So they still have.
Because obviously they won't be happy they have been brought to Accra. Of course, they won't be sacked. But once they've been asked to leave the embassy and come to Ghana,
but they haven't been sacked. But there is something that probably escapes our attention. You know, all of our ministers are addressed as honorables.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
Including the defense minister, minister of finance and so on.
Yes.
The foreign minister is an exception.
True. His Excellency.
The foreign minister is addressed the same way the president is addressed. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
That should tell you that the foreign minister is in a special category. You understand? That's our foreign image. You know, that's everything foreign is about him. Our negotiations with other countries, our solidarity with other countries, the definition of our foreign policy lines, and so on. It's all about the Minister for Foreign Affairs. And therefore, given what I know about the conduct of foreign policy and so on, sometimes to discuss the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you know, I'm a bit reluctant. I'm also reluctant because he said it. Perhaps I wouldn't have said it from the beginning. That's also our nerve center for foreign intelligence gathering. True.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
It's our nerve center for foreign intelligence gathering. So the foreign minister is not just presiding over exchanges of pleasantries and so on. The foreign minister is key in our intelligence gathering efforts and so on. So next time, maybe we can do it better than we've done this time. I don't want to go into all the...
Somebody was asking, in the last few days, the embassy was closed. So if there's a public official in America who wants to visit Ghana, the person would have to postpone it.
Yes.
Because the embassy is not working.
Not just that. What if you have a health emergency?
Yes.
You know, and there are many other emergencies that you could have, you know.
Yeah.
So embassies are very crucial.
Because the embassy is Ghana in America.
Exactly.
And when people have a problem, they go and seek refuge there. You know, so if there's a problem, where do the people go to?
But the good news is that, you know, this closure of the embassy has not lasted too long.
Yes.
It's lasted
But
only about
it could be
3
due to the public backlash.
Yeah, it was
Because when I read the statement which was issued by the Foreign Affairs Minister, which he put up on Facebook, the impression I got was that this was going to last for a while.
Yes.
You know, for some thorough investigations to take place, for us to unearth exactly what happened and so on, before new personnel is deployed to Washington. But you notice after a few, in fact, just 24 hours after this statement came and said on Thursday the embassy is going to open. I suspect maybe due to the backlash.
Yes. And then there's also something that I think is important to draw attention to. And this happens in all disciplined institutions.
Yeah.
You know. You don't draw the leader into controversies from the very beginning. You understand? So the leader must be kept aside when such things are happening. Is the last line. Okay. So when things happen at a certain level, way below the leader, and ministers issue statements that, oh, I did this in consultation with the head of state and so on, there's a problem. You lock the head of state in, he has no route of escape, and so on. It shouldn't happen. You know, it shouldn't happen.
And that is part of
the head of state is the last person to fall.
Yes.
You, the minister, take responsibility. I mean, what value is added by claiming
that I consulted the president?
That the president is part of it.
He's involved in that.
The president from the very beginning has been roped in, and it doesn't sound well.
Yes, but just a quick.
Even when presidents make mistakes, they are the last to take the fall.
Yeah.
You know, and it's for good reason and good measure. You know. So I don't know.
Let me just make these two.
No, I think it was perhaps meant to add some weight to the decision, and some legitimacy.
Nobody.
The foreign minister needs any weight to take action.
This is something that
he knew it was going to be a far-reaching. It was going to have far-reaching consequences, and so.
But the point is that you would have done that consultation.
But you don't.
You may have gotten the blessing, but of course you never know what the aftermath would be.
Yeah.
And so you take responsibility. That is why you are the minister. You are in charge.
You take the
so you take exactly.
Yeah.
So you take it.
Yeah.
But then this issue of going on Facebook and later issuing the statement on the letterhead of the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Why did he not go to Facebook to post the reopening of this? But now on the Foreign Affairs Ministry letterhead.
Honorable, there's a problem that I think we should look. Whether we like it or not, social media has come to stay. Social media has become a platform for communication.
That's correct.
There are presidents who are on X.
That's correct.
Our own president is on X.
Yes.
Donald Trump is on X,
Yes,
and so on. So
Truth
you
social.
cannot fault a minister
That's correct.
for using social media. However, some ministers ought to be a lot more discreet than others. You understand? I mean, for example, I expect the Minister of Interior to be far more discreet in the use of social media platforms than I would expect the Minister of
Water and Sanitation,
for example. You understand what I'm saying? So you cannot fault the foreign minister for using social media platforms. You cannot. But the advice that he needs to be a little more restrained, I think, is a good advice.
No,
but
I'm not
the ministry
against
itself
the usage
has a social media presence. So the ministry can announce some of these, you know.
So exactly my point.
Yes, and not necessarily Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa.
No, my
and
point
there should be
was
a department in the ministry
that manages
that.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that was the angle I was coming
from.
to.
Yes.
So there are certain things you can post on the social media, which are day-to-day information. Passport is going to be issued in 24 hours, and all of those things. Those informations can go in there. But when you are talking about decisions of the ministry of such far-reaching consequences, so as you said, it's a matter of, and I've made this statement on your platform in some way, that when we put people in such leadership positions, we should be mindful to continue training them in those responsibilities. Because it is different being an opposition foreign in charge of a ranking member at Foreign Affairs Ministry and now being the Minister for Foreign Affairs. So there should be continuous players who are now taking these high offices so that these errors can be minimized going forward. And then lastly, the 15 people or so that have been recalled. I feel very, very sad about it when you have not established prima facie evidence against them. And Kwesi is laughing because Chief Justice is waiting for his prima facie decision. So you've not established anything against all of them, and you are recalling them and their families. I think that is too harsh and too hard. You know, and that is why at times you want to see our distinction of politicizing these things. It's as if you now have an opportunity to send people out and get some people whom you are interested in to send.
But these diplomats understand, even before they took up the job, that they could be reassigned any day.
No, we agree. But I'm saying that the angle, what is necessitating the reassignment, if you work for your number of years, or your need is, your expertise is needed somewhere, and so you are being reassigned, that is understandable. That's what they signed up to. But when you are conducting an investigation into somebody's conduct, and then you bring all officials within that space and ask them to return subject to investigations, then I think that is hardlining. And I think
there's a little problem, you know, that I've been struggling with. And that we are told that an investigation team is being sent to Washington to carry out the investigations. And I'm hearing now that the staff there who have the facts, which will be examined by the investigation team, is being asked to come to Accra. There's a problem there, isn't there?
So basically, who is going to be supporting this investigative team to do their work?
Yeah, I mean, there's a problem there, but maybe it can be explained. Maybe it can be explained.
Because they have
I'm waiting to listen
to furnish you with the necessary information you need.
Unless the investigations are being conducted in Accra. But if the investigation
they went to Washington.
Yes. To conduct the investigation, way to Accra.
Yes.
That is incongruous.
No, I get that. I get that. We need some explanation, some clarity on that. Otherwise, how are you going to conduct the investigations? Who is going to assist you?
One thing is clear for me.
Yes.
The foreign minister is a very articulate gentleman. You know that.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, nobody disputes that.
Speaks well.
You know, he speaks well. Most of the time he sees with his facts and so on.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that these matters will be explained as quickly as possible. You know, in order for people to feel easy about what is happening.
Yeah.
No doubt there's a problem in Washington. There's a problem in Washington. There's a big problem. The Ghanaian community in the United States is being shortchanged. Something is being done in the embassy which is illegal, which ultimately would affect Ghana's national interest and image and so on. Something needs to be done about it and so on. But we need to do it in such a way that it is neat.
Yeah.
So that's all we are asking for. I don't think that anybody is asking for more than that. You know.
And then, okay, again, the foreign affairs, the people who are the helm of affairs at the Foreign Affairs Ministry would also have some explanations to do. I'm sure all of that will come up during the investigations because they ought to tell us, as Uncle Kwesi has said, did you know about this? What did you do about it? Anyway.
No, from the information we have,
there's something
officials at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs knew.
Yes.
Probably even including the previous minister.
Yes, before, you know.
You understand?
The
but they failed to take action. Somebody must be explaining why they failed to take action. You know, why the gentleman was left at post
perpetuated
up
to this time.
Exactly.
It's untenable.
So for what it also means is that for a very long time, persons who were paying the visa fees that were being paid, and also for passport and so on, were they being overcharged?
It's not everybody. You know,
it's not everybody.
It's not everybody.
How?
So his conduct, whatever he was doing, the illegality was not for all services, as in everybody that applied.
So it was just for passports?
No, even the passport, you know, he creates his alternate link.
Yes.
So if you happen to fall in that link, then that is where you go through those.
No. That those who applied online.
Yes, those who apply online.
Yes.
But then, if you and I live in Washington, D.C., and I apply for the same service, and I come and tell you I paid $50, and you come and tell me you paid $80.
But you don't know.
But it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
That we're friends, and we decided to sort of, you know, apply for certain kinds of services. Yes. You decided to go online, and I wanted to go offline. Yes. And I noticed that I paid a certain amount of money. You paid differently. Yeah. There's a conversation that it would definitely trigger.
Exactly.
What's happening. But my point even is that
the Ghanaians who have been
shortchanged.
Yes. How come so many they didn't also bring it or complain in some form?
Yeah, but that is why the Angelina lady was saying that.
There's a problem.
It had come to attention.
Because from all the reports you have read this morning, this matter came to the attention of embassy officials.
Yes, even ambassador,
Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials. Yeah. So somebody must have complained.
Yes.
People must have complained.
Yes.
The problem is that in the previous administration, the ministry
action.
failed to take action. They didn't take any action at all.
And the question is why?
And that is why His Excellency Okudzeto Ablakwa now is being compelled to do it.
A forensic investigation.
Exactly. If it had been done before him, he wouldn't be saddled with this responsibility.
Some matters arising. But let's look at these other issues which has also been making the rounds. It's about this ECG containers which went missing. And now we're told that we found them. But the numbers apparently are even more than what we're told was missing. And that's if you put everything in total. So what exactly is happening? Now, if you look at the daily guide of today, it says the story, it's okay. And let me look at that one here. Okay, good. So, Ernest Kofi, And as Kofi Edu from Parliament House says, the minority in Parliament is demanding answers from Energy Minister John Jinapor following new claims that Electricity Company of Ghana containers, that's ECG containers, previously reported as missing, were never lost. According to reports, the containers have been at the Tema Port all along. Member of Parliament MP for Kaikwe Central, Patrick Yabuama, addressing the media in Parliament yesterday, called on the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, to return to Parliament and set the record straight on the alleged disappearance of containers belonging to the Electricity Company of Ghana, insisting the containers were never missing but rather misplaced. Mr. Buama expressed deep concern over the reputational damage caused by initial claims that ECG containers had gone missing at the Tema Port, demanding for him to honorably apologize. According to him, investigations have shown that the containers in question were merely misplaced and later recovered, not stolen or missing, as earlier suggested by the minister. You have Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, a much respected institution having protected people's consignments over the years. Then suddenly we're told some ECG containers were missing. But from what I have gathered, the minister acted on an interim report, not a final one. These containers were simply misplaced, not missing. MP Buama further criticized the premature public disclosure by the Energy Minister, cautioning public officers to exercise restraint when dealing with sensitive matters. He noted that earlier claims suggested about 1,300 containers were unaccounted for, but subsequent information indicates over 2,600 containers have been recovered. So was it 1,300, 2,006, or 3,000? We need clarity, and that's why we'll ask the minister to return and give us the true position. The MP emphasized the need for accountability and integrity in public discourse, stating that the minister owes ECG staff, the public, and Parliament an apology. People's images were dented, reputations were put on the line. It's only honorable for the minister to come back and clarify things. Meanwhile, former managing director of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Samuel Dubik Mahama, was yesterday invited to the National Security for questioning in connection with investigations in 2006-37 on accounted for containers consigned to ECG at the Tema Port. His caution statement was taken as part of the ongoing investigation, and this was confirmed by Richmond Roxon, the spokesperson and head of communications for the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. He further indicated that some ECG staff have been asked to step aside to facilitate an unfettered investigations into the mystery surrounding their unaccounted for containers at the Tema Port. The containers initially reported to be 1,003, but later found to be more, have accumulated significant demurrage costs. Kwesi, what do you make of this story?
Well, these are very interesting developments. First of all, the impression, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, is created that we've lost about 1,300 and something containers.
Yes.
And then this is followed up by discoveries at some smelting, joints and so on. We find them in wayside fitting shops and so on. So the general impression is that these containers have been stolen. Then 2 days ago, news comes out that we've actually discovered double the number of containers we said were missing in the ports. We've actually now discovered more than 2,600 containers which are in the ports. So then, I've heard some say that it's an indication that the containers were not stolen, that they were not missing. I think there's still confusion about the number of containers we imported and how much was cleared. We need to settle the figures. We haven't settled the figures. Now, those containers which were found in workshops, and so on, the people who had them admitted that they did not import them and that they were sold to them by some agencies and so on. So they could very well be part, of the containers. They could be missing containers. I'm not saying that they are, but they could be missing containers. Okay, that's fine. Now, there's a substantial issue which is raised. How did the ECG keep its inventory? I mean, the administration in the ECG must be in shambles. Unbelievable. I mean, they import material and they don't even know the quantity they have imported. They don't know the quantity which has been cleared.
But Kwesi,
yes.
But the transition report, which John Jinapor received during the transition period. Said 3,000. You don't think that should settle the matter? That's public record. 3,000. Except that he said, okay, even though it's 3,000, I want to go to the ground and confirm that myself. And then he got there and somebody told him. I don't know where exactly he went and who he spoke to, but somebody said, oh, it's not 3,000, it's 2,637. And I said, look, these are two different figures. I need to reconcile them. So he put up a 3-man investigative team, interim, to look into it. And then they came out and told him that, well, apparently, it's not even up to 2,637. And that is actually 1,000 something, 1,347.
Yeah.
And I said, so where are all these different figures coming from? So I need to investigate.
But that's the point I'm making.
Okay.
What system of inventory was kept?
Right.
Because that's reference to inventory.
Yeah.
Should be able to tell you
yeah.
how many are at the ports, how many have been cleared, how many of them are in the warehouses, and so on. A simple system of inventory taking. So all this confusion tells me that there's something fundamentally wrong with the administration of the ECG. You know, it may well be that nothing was stolen. May well be that nothing was missing. It may well be that this is just a manifestation of inefficiency.
Then obviously they were not missing. Oh, okay, they were missing, but they've been found.
How do you have confidence in the new figures?
That's a good question.
On what basis are you going to have confidence in the new figures when all the figures you had been given before turned out to be problematic? Yeah. So these new figures could also be problematic. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So I think the first thing to do is to improve efficiency at the Electricity Company of Ghana. Basic things. Get a proper inventory of all the assets, of the ECG, including containers and non-containers. Today we are discussing containers. Do you know what we are going to find if we start investigating vehicles? If we start investigating vehicles, do you know what we are going to find? If they have this hopeless, useless system of inventory taking. So that whole company needs a certain cleanup. It needs to be more efficient than it is today. I've heard people calling for the head of the minister and so on. I won't go that far. The minister himself could have become a victim of misinformation.
Yes.
Like all of us, the minister himself could have been a victim of misinformation. Let us properly establish.
And that's why he himself, if you listen to his commentary, he says, I've been told.
Yeah.
I have been told,
So let us establish the full facts. And on the basis of the full facts which are established by a competent team, not the team which was handling inventory at the company, a competent team, then we can proceed to make judgments. In the final analysis, what we are interested in is that the resources of Ghana should not be wasted. What we are interested in is that when we import things, we import them because they are needed.
Yeah.
And then when they arrive at the ports, they will be cleared and used for the purposes for which we imported them. You understand? For me, that's my concern.
Okay.
All
right. Moro.
Moro.
Yes.
This issue of missing containers and missing stuff at the port, when I hear them, I marvel because if you have an understanding of how the port system works, it will be very, very, very difficult for you to understand how somebody will say that containers are missing. Because once the ship docks and you get the containers out, the containers would be under the care of the port, which is MPS. They are the people who receive them. And then after you have paid your duties or whatever, you take your containers away. If you don't pay your duties after some stipulated time, whether 21 days or 14 days, it goes to UCL, uncleared cargo list. And when it goes to uncleared cargo list, a decision is made as to where you go and deposit them, whether it's at this terminal or this terminal. And so they are moved there. Before a container then gets cleared out of those terminals, the processes that you have to go through and the securities and the checks that happens, it is completely difficult for you to understand even one container to be declared missing from the port. So when I heard 1,000 containers, I'm like, where did they get lost from? Are we living in a country where if they were kept at Aflau border, that one you can go and sleep, and then maybe you wake up one morning and someone will carry one container away. But to talk about 1,000 containers, 500 containers in Ghana's port at Tema, then we are all at risk. The revenues of the state will be at risk. And so first and foremost, this issue of missing containers are just much ado about nothing and trying to blow hot air into the system. And I believe that if ministers are seized with information, we should be a bit careful in trying to get the right information before we put them out there. Because if he had done basic checks with either Customs Division or GPHA, they would have told him that if the containers had been low, but the bigger question is, where were the 2,600 containers hidden? Because to keep over 2,600 containers in different locations of our port, it's a big deal. So how come we had these containers locked up in different sections of our port, and nobody was able to trace and track them and give information to ECG and to the government that these are the containers imported by Electricity Company of Ghana and not cleared? The third point I want to make is that normally when containers are not cleared, government auctions them, either by selling them to people on open auction or what they do as allocation. So when some people buy those products, you find them in the market. And then, so it means that somebody would have bought them from auction. The person wouldn't have paid all the demorages because at auction, you pay them at the cost of the duty. And then you find them in the open market. ECG has brought this, and the truth be told, it is not just this government or the past government that had this difficulty of ECG bringing in hundreds and thousands of containers that are unaccounted for and that have not been cleared. It's been a perennial challenge at ECG. And my difficulty is how management of it. Because ECG is a big institution. And you give someone a contract to bring in these things on your behalf. You pay the person imports the product, and then you don't clear the product. And it becomes a white elephant. And the issue is that people would have had need of the products that you have imported. And so the government stance of trying to identify the containers are a step in the right direction. But we need to bring finality to this process whereby a proper audit should be conducted. Yeah. I'm not interested in investigation. What's this whole investigative body? 3-man body, they come and give you some stories. 4-man body. We have the top 4 auditing firms. Fine, because this is a big deal. This is a big deal. Certain political decision and policy decisions have to be made with regards to how these containers are brought in by ECG and not cleared. And so we need to establish how many containers have been imported over some period of time. Yeah. If you want to do it at the time of the MPP from 2017, do the audit. Let's see how many containers were brought in, how many were cleared, how many were not cleared, why were they not cleared, where do we have them, do we still have need of them, how does government negotiate? Because at GRA, I've had the opportunity of seeing ECG come to GRA to negotiate and discuss ways in which they have to clear their uncleared cargo. And certain steps were taken to make sure that those containers were released to ECG. Because other people would normally get them. There are certain products that comes. Only ECG has need of them. So if ECG doesn't take it and you sell them to an auction, at auction, that person buying from auction will go and resell to ECG.
True.
So ECG pays for the importation.
And there's a whole industry around that.
Exactly. And not only that, even cocoa.
Yes.
Cocoa sacks.
Yeah. What we call the jute sacks.
Jute sacks. They are brought, not cleared, goes to auction. It is sold at the back. Somebody takes them, goes and resell them to cocoa board. You know, so this country, we need to be very careful. You know, and these are the steps that I want leadership, not politics. We have overly politicized our mind. So the minister is not looking at how to fine-tune and get systems working. He's interested in throwing out who has stolen, has MPP done this, and is it the MPP, is it MPP, is it MPP? The moment you go chasing after politics, you lose the focus of establishing a sound institution, putting in place policies that can guide future behaviors within the organization. And so that has to be looked at. A proper audit has to be conducted, final audit reports reviewed, so that there is clarity and finality as to the numbers, get them cleared for ECG use, and make sure that this situation doesn't recur again, because it cost the nation.
Yeah.
People might have been paid for bringing these things into this country.
Right.
And yet, we have not. If you go to my constituency, we want meters. Meter has become something like cocaine. Yeah. Simple issue. If you build your house or you put in, I go and do polytank, drill borehole, and you want a meter to connect, and they tell you there are no meters.
Yeah.
And yet, you go and check, meters have been imported, and they have been sitting at the port for 7 years, for 10 years, and nobody cares. So it is important we look at these things and sanitize the situation. And this kind of thing is what I want current leadership to move away from political mischief.
All right.
And do the right thing, so that at the end of the day, we can get a better institution, get better systems in place, and get better service for the good people of this country.
I have personally requested that the energy minister makes the findings of the committee's work public, because we ought to know the people who are responsible for this. Well,
check the composition of those committees and their background and their experience.
No, I get it. I get it.
What is this
internationally reputable organization.
Get a proper audit.
Do it, and let's yeah. But in the meantime, let's see what you have.
No, I think we can use local auditors.
Yes.
Yeah.
This so-called internationally recognizable auditors. And
It
actually doesn't mean much.
We don't trust our own people.
Yeah, but our own people are auditing the United Nations and United Nations agencies.
Well.
So that one, all we need is an audit.
Yeah, all we need is a good audit.
A good audit.
A good audit
and
get us the findings.
I get it. So Niama Matefio, who's watching the show, he says that the new development regarding the ECG containers and the attempt to shift blame on the Honorable Jinapo is much ado about nothing. The minister simply echoed the findings of the committee's report. The figures he cited concerning the missing containers were part of the official report submitted to him. He's not in a position to independently verify the accuracy of claims made by the experts who compiled the report. In fact, it is the same minister who, following further investigations and review, has returned to provide an updated account to the public. The most critical question remains: who are the individuals responsible for stealing the equipment from the containers? And the days ahead will certainly be revealing. I'm not sure if the minister has said something has been stolen from the containers. I'm not aware. We've just been told.
I'm
that,
also not aware.
Yes, we've just been told a certain quantity has been retrieved. But I'm only saying that the 3,000 which was contained in the auditor, you know, in the transition report, it should be for me our baseline. That's what we must have. We must have 3,000 containers, because definitely the same ECG that told us that there are 3,000 containers at the port. You know, we cannot. Yeah, there
could actually be more. Yeah, because if your information suggests 1,300, you are now 2,000. So clearly there's a poor. And actually, my information suggests that there are more containers at the port that have not been uncovered. That is, yes. And then the minister went around, entered some companies and said, we found one container here. Yeah. We found another container. Let's get serious, man.
You know, and Angusia, in as much as I agree with you that we need to, you know, clean up the inventory system at the ECG. My gut tells me that people are not ready to have a proper system that takes inventory of these items that are imported because of people's personal, you know what I mean? People's personal.
Sack them.
Yeah, well.
You sack them.
Yeah, that's all.
I mean, when people who work in the public space, display this level of incompetence, you sack them.
Yeah.
You
bring in competent people.
Bring in competent people.
That's all. All right.
So we are dealing with a very high level of incompetence.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have there's a train which is on the move. It's called the accountability train. It has been moving very fast. And it is taking a stop at the residence of the Ashanti regional chairman of the MPP, Chairman Wontumi. He was invited. He didn't go. He was a visit by the NIB to his residence. He went screaming and complaining that he was being harassed and so on. He was promised that security agencies were told that he would be, brought there. He went there on Monday or so, and there was an interaction with him, and then he came back yesterday. And after reporting yesterday, he was arrested again after the initial, interaction engagement with the CID. He was arrested again by Yoko. And we're told that he's at the grips of the Yoko as we speak. But a few developments have come up. Now, it says that Yoko arrest Wontumi, again, still with the Daily Guide, and it says that the Jibril Abdul Razak says the Economic and Organized Crime Office yesterday arrested Ashanti Regional Chairman of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Bernard Intimidation, widely known as Chairman Wontumi. The arrest happened moments after he exited the Criminal Investigation Department at the police headquarters in Accra, where he's facing interrogations for allegedly entering and mining in a forest reserve without authorization. It was not clear why he was arrested or the possible offenses for which officials of the anti-graft body whisked him away. Wontumi was in the company of lawyer Andy Apiakubi when officials of Yoko apprehended him without any, explanation. The arrest has drawn significant condemnation from the public, with some suggesting the action constitutes an abuse of power, considering the fact that Mr. Intimidation is currently under investigation by the police and is cooperating with them. So Wontumi was at the CID headquarters yesterday for further investigations by the police as part of his bail conditions. The police on Monday, May 26, 2025, granted Chairman Wontumi a police inquiry bail to assist with ongoing investigations into allegations related to illegal mining activities. He arrived at the CID headquarters at midday, accompanied by a team of lawyers led by former Attorney General Godfrey Adame. The police later confirmed in a statement that Mr. Intimidation cooperated fully with investigators, provided a statement, and was subsequently granted bail. Sources familiar with the interrogation disclosed that Chairman Wontumi denied all allegations leveled against him. He reportedly submitted his mining license for verification and maintaining that his operations are entirely legal and regulated. Spokesperson for the MPP in the Ashanti region, Paul Yando, who witnessed the arrest, said, "We were here with Chairman for the second day of his investigations with the CID officials. With less than 5 minutes after getting onto the premises from nowhere, Yoko officials grabbed Wontumi into their car and drove to the office for interrogation in a bizarre manner. The arrest further adds to growing concerns about the manner in which the state security agencies have conducted raids on opposition members since the NDC took power after winning the 2024 elections. There were masked security operatives made up of personnel from the National Intelligence Bureau, NIB, and the Ghana Police Service had earlier stormed Wontumi's home in what witnesses described as a Rambo-style operation, creating panic among residents and attracting large crowds, including MPP supporters. Now, meanwhile, the leadership of the MPP have condemned the Rambo-style arrest of Chairman Wontumi, who has fully cooperated with the law enforcement agency. So there's some of the chaps who were there. The names have been captured in that story. But closely related to this story is that of the Herald. Now, the Herald is telling us Chairman Wontumi is sick. And we're told in this story, let me just, it's here. We're told that the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, that's Bernard Intimidation, alias Chairman Wontumi, was hospitalized yesterday, Tuesday, 27 May 2025, after reportedly falling ill during an interrogation by the Economic and Organized Crime Office in Accra. The development was confirmed by his legal representative, Andy Apiakubi, a former member of parliament for Ashanti Akim North, who briefed journalists last night on his client's health status. However, he declined to reveal the name or location of the medical facility where his client was being treated. I know where he is, but I'm not going to disclose the hospital. All I can say is that my client has been taken to the hospital for medical treatment. Wontumi has a history of ending up in hospital over such matters. In January last year, after weeks of being sought by the Ministerial Police over remarks he made against Ashanti, Inotumfo said to Wontumi was found in a hospital bed in pictures he circulated, depicting him as ill and on admission. Honorable.
Yes, I will take it from two angles.
Okay.
The first has to do with the way and manner people are invited for interrogation or investigation.
Okay.
And the conduct of state operatives in conducting or picking up suspects for investigation. You see, we've come very far as a country since 1992 to this time and age where we still want to use intimidation, Rambo style approach just to invite people to police station. And these scenes are becoming one too many. And I think for reputational purposes as a country, it is very, very disheartening. Why? If you want to invite someone to come and be questioned, first and foremost, you give an open invitation. The person tells you, okay, if you want me to come tomorrow and I'm available, I will come. If I want to seek your leave and say, okay, please, can you make it 2 or 3 days time? And you agree, I come. If I don't come and you want to come and arrest me, the process in coming to arrest is very clear. If you want to bring state operatives to come and arrest, you just come in a very refined, professional manner. What is this cars with armed men, 15, 20 armed men with some of them wearing masks? It's so appalling for a country like Ghana today. Why would you wear mask? I don't remember. It's military junta, coup regimes that you have people, security men, wearing mask. Why? In America and all of those people, when President Donald Trump and all of those people are being arrested, they go in their full identity. Why this Rambo? And look at what happened to this Adenta Kumi. Somebody has gone to petition, and you want to invite him for questioning, and you go to his house at 5 a.m. with armed men and pick it. Why are we doing this to ourselves as a country? Why are we behaving as if we are in a coup regime? Why are we behaving as if people that we are calling upon to avail themselves for investigation, they have another paramilitary groups sitting there somewhere who are going to fight the state security and cause unnecessary panic and fear in the system? So my first point is that this thing must stop. This era where we are going in with people being invited or being arrested in this Rambo style, masked faced and arms wielding in our democratic dispensation should be checked. And I call on the Minister for Interior and National Security, Honorable Muntaka Muhammad, to please step in this, because it is becoming one too many. Now, why is Wontumi being investigated? Well, if the state thinks he has done something that requires investigation, the state is entitled to invite him. He's been cautioned, he's written his statement, and so it has to be reviewed. And if the state thinks there is a case that he has to answer, you take him to court and prosecute him simpliciter. So whether it is Wontumi you want or it is whoever you want to invite and prosecute, that is your cup of tea. I believe everybody should be answerable for his actions and inactions. Wontumi is an astute businessman. Everybody knows his business. He's been doing mining for years, not MPP time. He's been doing this mining business even when NDC had been in power. So it is no news. If you want to make allegations that he has entered into forest, bring your evidence. He said, I've not gone there. I have no business to do with mining in the forest area. But then, why are we interested in only Wontumi? Are we saying that for the entire country, It is only Wontumi who is doing that business. Go to Takwa. Go to Bogosu Pristia. We have more mining campaigns who are destroying our reserves. But for political expediency. And I'm always saying, if we follow politics, this country will collapse. If you want to fight illegal mining, make sure everybody that is suspected to be in that business or trade to be invited and investigated. But when you single out political persons like Chairman Wontumi, like this other person, then it is more like a political man hunting or witch hunting. And so you allow the political figures to go on that tangent. And the state will never be able to satisfy itself with whatever it wants to achieve.
Right.
So please, let's get it straight. Wontumi has availed himself. And this issue where you are at NIB or police and the Yoko comes to pick you up. What is this? If the man has not run away from this country, he availed himself for NIB investigation, interrogation. If Yoko wants him, why don't you invite him? Moro, if Yoko wants him, why would you drive to NIB and forcefully come and take him to, we causing unnecessary, we are all human. The person may have business interests, may have foreigners that he's doing business with. He would have his health. You don't know his health situation. That is why today they are saying that he's hospitalized. Somebody will say somewhere and think that, oh, he's faking. But people have health issues. When they arrested Adenta Kubi, their wife got miscarried. No, that is the information we are told.
No, it's not been confirmed.
No, but that is what we were told.
Yes.
But it is possible.
For now, we treat it as a mere rumor.
Yeah, no rumor. It's an information that I have not verified, though. But the point I'm making is that the actions of our security apparatus create unnecessary panic. Because if the woman got miscarried, when is she going to take seed again? Because somebody takes years to take a seed.
You are proceeding on the assumption that the report is true.
So, please, the health of Wontumi and these operatives, I think the state should be guided.
Okay.
Please invite people. And my advice to everybody, nobody is above the law. So when you are invited, let's make ourselves available. Go through military regime. We have the courts.
I'm told in the case of Wontumi for 2 weeks, I can't independently confirm. I'm told for 2 weeks he kept playing games with the NIB, kept telling them I'll report today, I'll report tomorrow, I have something, so they got frustrated at some point.
That is fine. Yeah. So go, if you want to arrest him, as I say, you can always go and arrest. But the modus operandi,
is where you have
the scenes, it's as if we are arresting some criminal gangs, cocaine, criminal gangs with arms, and that's
it's needless. It's needless.
Yeah, it's needless. That scene is completely needless.
Well, he's talking about the number of people who are going to Chairman Wontumi's house to arrest just one person. You have more than 20. That's where he's coming from.
Kwesi, take over.
So, uti nsema uncle Kwesi Pratt kana Ghana na sisi ya wono. Eniyema bi wo hono ma eni kwanse ayeye. For example, me Okudzeto Ablakwa, me nyan shedem follow the story now. We closely down US, embassy, Ghana embassy in US now. I think that wasn't the rightful, procedure, and I said that wasn't the rightful way. I was a nanka or yes, sir. Because you can attest to the fact, say, enkofobi, ena sebi, and I say the office now no ena omo edi yes scandala. Now omo phone ban so on say basa who delay omo, ebasa who delay a lot of people's business. Oh yeah, then who delay and you are causing chaos to the those people no omo business ebe affect omo negatively. What I say, and the answer na oh ye minister and I say a do be see pain biano and I say do be see biano oh ye bibia, you have to know the consequences, you know. If the disadvantages carry out the advantages, it tells you say, then this thing I am about to do, it will not help. We have so many ways of dealing with, people in scandals and as a people who found to be guilty of, scandals and scandalous activities and fraudulent activities. We have so many ways to deal with them. And you say, be closing it down, the whole embassy, shutting it down, and a man for I then assassin free home. But we have so many ways to deal with them. Into yes, Minister Okudzeto Ablakwa, and then sending same be on working kakra, me sure Safana soon. Okoka say, Brana, NDC for Yenya, Kunbe Okoka say, if a year NDC for either president and vice president, a chata, private jet or resign that day now. You see, something we know in bunting. As a politician, or you oppositioner, be aware and be careful of how you express yourselves. Although open power, open to me, but sometimes o can say be one she in one to share. A baby etching and na ko ababitiao. You Okudzeto Ablakwa can say mu ye maame Jenopoku nana enso na nsenya na ochata flight private jet edifri amonone ebepie Ghana wo bra okosa na ho yade. Although it wasn't condemning that situation no, but Okudzeto Ablakwa some kind no emikini clear say ono so e was saying or resign because of say Akufo-Addo e chata private jet na 1 hour 15,000 euros na ade. But I don't know Intimi fan compare Mammy Jane. Akufo-Addo de no share that's all the big review or share that's all the best flazy or share that's all the say well brunini and crofobinum a better tinam no more money no more digenis and keke. By a mammy dear, not just a hundred donor. That is the only difference. Me met me I sincere and fair to that. Enti Okudzeto Ablakwa who opposition and some I am working because by saying people have been calling for your resignation. Input Foreign Affairs Ministry honor. When the crowd about Bonti say Okudzeto Ablakwa nyanye de resign here into momo yes or resigning na MPP for propaganda. Ampa propaganda no more but to opposition we politician no opposition. Sometimes only a unkase bi abekano affect when you come to power. Nti your position a mama yɛ nkasa bebree sɛ MPP for ɔmo kasa ɔmo nya bere ɔmo nkɔ ho ntintin ɔmo nya twɛdeɛ kora ɔmo bɛto but ɔmo ba power nso a adeɛ no ɔmo kasa tia no that is the exact thing they are going to implement, that is the exact thing they are going to be found guilty of. So you see politicians nti me a metie me menji politician bi ndi oyɛ ndi so oyɛ MPP menji wo ndi John Mahama yɛ so yɛ papa yi menji ne ndi oyɛ nipa so betimi aba but the meka ne say we are the papa meka we are the born me bo wachi. That is the only thing I me di judge omo. We are the papa, I will say it as president. We are the born, I will say it as president. Say that you know me the better one. Last one Okudzeto Ablakwa we the last but one Okudzeto ayeyoga Kwesi Pratt Junior catch Wontumi. You see Chama Wontumi will be a was a Ghana. Say NDC for NTN Jelly will be a crown. Chama Wontumi should be settled as an example. Chama Wontumi should be settled as an example. I was saying Omodi Chama Wontumi shame for about a year and I say for about some months. Na Chama Wontumi see bibi no who said Debbie. Sir, and you may be one of me ya in kwanse be Chama Wontumi as ene na me wo baby me de me kako baby ana me fixe bibi kakra wo ho na me tie nsem a obi ka ho asem ochiremu a Chama Wontumi share galamsi ase nyinemu time in memorial Chama Wontumi share ase ache but enkofo mo surrounding no even the president Akufo-Addo twa mu yura former president enibo omianom oya na oni omo akọ na omo akoche oya na oni omo akọ na omo akoche omo na didi hu bi eni nti eduru ba bia na Akufo-Addo protecting say asset. Now I'm speaking Chama Wontumi is not doing galamsey. It is a brofo na brofo kese pa Ghana for ya adwan koso asset. Now I'm speaking bra ya ka se Chama Wontumi ne license o yisu no uni license edi ye akonta mines ayura kufa no ye president 2023 right okoka say no chama Wontumi as at now speaking he is having licenses as at now no kan so chiremu say dia no kasari di no license ba mre bi atwam no na chama Wontumi any licenses ano de ne dwuma itaso say na oye galamsey itaso say adia no ye nyina no na illegal mining intene kakran ndisi for watimi ato nsa anase watimi abuma chama Wontumi a mo mane enslepe out from your hand momo urawi kwatena fie keke without prosecuting him a Ghana for mumfa nhye mutirim say 2028 it is just around the corner 2028 is just around the corner and we are going to massively vote against you because mo ora team no eno ka ho bi ne ma Ghana ye den yenya wihemu eto abama mo the ora no eya dia sabi Ghana for adwenta so ayehwe ni mu se nkofo bebe ko jail kinofrata bi di so ne akufa adu nankasa kwa no obetimi edi so be ko jail ni bi before so be wu akufa adu be ko jail because akufa adu ade a waye no okroma 58 million Ghana cedis so di ko to amana keke a oda ho no ahwe enye no he must go to jail or so ko jail what na me chwana say enti nyema bu on ma ye fa no light e okroma. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. Any concept banisa things that we take it for granted. Wukuruman eya dia hinya eya dia e more mine ebo na ya fa no normal na titia o mine no ye ho chire na sika semu bibi nko ye nema nko ye. Enti yewra John Dramani Mahama ye president announced say from July ko 24-hour economy no be sha say operationalize it. Odi asempa na bo aba asempa na bo 24-hour economy inti papa John Dramani Mahama say enche aje bojo bo July mu June July inti exactly ne beka say less than 2 months odi 24-hour economy no launching ebe hihye so na bibia etmeden akoso inti mumi na entam chuko na entwen. Lastly, ECG containers na ira no. So me yanti so mo fine no. Ghana yedi agro pa. ECG containers eni ataban eni nsa. To Big Mahama na ono ye CEO edema ECG last year Akufo-Addo ne pencil. The Big Mahama kano point blank say ono on gin ni se dia ira containers na ira ono a CEO penyo o se on gin o resign ye kwa ye mbisa di nti akwa no resign ye ba bia nka betwe ne kogina court se di nti o resign di nti a ade na ekoso ho no de na wo hu de na ekoso na nka ya toto na no ti bibi bone ekoso a be de ibe hu but we your case onye bi wa na eja no eno nam fie no o grant interviews eno o san kase on gin ni se containers na ira because enkrofo binum ensa hyase John Jinapo owura mo adwuma nso ani o na Ghana ha ye wo no ye tumi ma o na se wo ye ohun kokwasa eduru ba bia e be manafo wadi so I'm telling you so mo se ye tumi na hye mo nsa we make sure say things that we spoke against things that you people yourself you spoke against in opposition obana mo beto aso a 4 years nduru ho no ma mo ha mo ho na ma ye de mo pack mo ho fira ban mo yamfa ho se dollar bet kwa akoto 0 pesos kra yamfa ho eti mo ya dibo no ye ka kire mo mfia John Jinapo mo maye hu the reasons why I this ECG container na ahira ne yente mo nka mo maye hu wo kwabnane ho no mo maye hu na ye prosecute omo that's right and that's all period. Abusia bye bye mama mfa wisi mama che ba afo yakopɔ hira mama ro ye bia yakopɔ nyo kese obi bia hwe begati bi yakopɔ hira makra bye bye.